Sup, everyone. My name is James McCool. I'm the owner of PaydirtDFS.com. My child is behind me. He will be yelling while I do this little production stuff, but it won't matter because I won't actually be doing much of this analysis. I am joined by the ghost of Pablo, who does not have a camera today because he's a poor and doesn't know how to set up his own tech. And joined by Mike, of course, who is going to be helping us out with the NHL stuff as well. Mike, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. It's a fun little slate we got here. We got 10 games, I think. So I'm excited. Yeah. Pablo took notes, so I'm excited to see a streamlined Pablo here and ready to go.
Man, I cannot wait to show Pablo this new app that I'm working with. That is going to just launch his blogging to the next level. It's going to be sick. Pablo, how are you doing? How's your face look? I can see that you're hiding it.
My face, yeah. People can't even see the hat I'm wearing. It's very sad. No, I'm doing well. Like Mike said, I dove into this slate about an hour ago and went through every game and took some notes so that Mike and I can be efficient for the people, and we can aim to be done at least about 45 minutes before lock, so everyone has time to build. But it's a good slate, and I think it's big enough where you can play fairly optimally, but also not that hard to sort of focus on the good plays.
Yeah, 10-game slates are a lot. Oh man, there's some echo from Pablo. Tragic. 10-game slates are usually a lot, especially in MLB and NHL, where there's high variance and volatility. But that's one of the things about those sports is that you then get to embrace that high variance and volatility. I personally think that higher number game slates are pretty good. I like a 7 to 10 gamer for these kind of variant sports. Mostly just because it does show that you have a little bit better edge in maximizing your correlations, which is that's your favorite game in the world. It's Damascus's favorite game in the world too. That's also a message for me to, go be a dad instead of doing this. So I'm going to leave it to these guys. Pablo, obviously his mic will work even if his face doesn't. And I'm sure that Mike can have enough face for the both of them. So I'll be here hanging out. If you guys have any questions for me, you can feel free to ask me. If you have any questions for either one of these guys, please do ask them in the comments. With that being said, I'm going to go be a dad and leave it to these guys.
All right. I muted myself, Mike, because James had said I had an echo. Hopefully I'm not echoing now. Am I echoing for you? Am I okay?
No, it sounds good. I think you're good.
Okay, wonderful. And I've got my screen up. Hopefully you're seeing the Paydirt projections. Is that what's showing?
Not right now. No, I don't see. I just see our two box. Now I see something happening. There we go.
Okay, it may just be a little bit laggy. So we'll deal with that. All right, so yeah, let's go through this. For those of you who have tuned in before, what we usually do is we kind of go game by game. I like to approach this from as highest total to lowest total. Think about which lines look good from a correlation standpoint, from a projection standpoint, and then kind of think about ownership and the best way to approach a slate as well. I'll just start by talking about the contest sims. The contest sims today prefer a 2, 4, or 3-man stack over a I don't know why it's shaking like that. It's kind of funny. But 2, 3, or 4-man stack over onslaughts for what it's worth. And we'll talk about where the edge is after we kind of go through the games. It's a 10 gamer, so I think we can play fairly optimally, but there are I think there are some, somewhat sneaky spots as well. If we just hit this from the top here, Colorado is playing Montreal. Montreal's on a back-to-back. Decent game environment with a good game pace. And, Colorado 1 is starting to turn into Colorado 1 again. They've kind of gotten healthy. Colorado 2 is also interesting. If we look at their correlation, you've got Colorado 1 here with, obviously with McKinnon, who's probably going to be the chalkiest pay up on the slate. Mikko Rantanen, Cale Makar's on the power play with them. And then line 2, we've got Middlestat and Drouin. It is worth noting that Middlestat and Drouin are both only 3,800, and they're kind of starting to produce. Just in the last game or two, Middlestat has done stuff. Drouin scored a goal, and so I don't hate the thought of combining like a McKinnon, Rantanen with one or both of those guys if you need some money, because they do play in the power play together. I think it's a good spot. Colorado will not be sneaking anyway. They'll probably be the chalkiest. At least McKinnon will probably be the chalkiest player on the slate. Any thoughts, Mike, from you on Colorado? The other guy I'll mention is Josh Manson. He remains 2,800 as kind of a punt D-man. I don't know that we have to go that cheap. If we want to, he's still good value. He takes shots. But I think there's not much to dislike. I think it's just a matter of how do you play them? How do you get creative? You're probably picking between Nico and Makar if you're playing one of them with McKinnon. I think you're playing McKinnon for sure. It's just a matter of then, are you playing Rantanen or Makar? And then are you pairing them with people like Joanne or Middlestat or Manson as well? But what are your thoughts on Colorado?
Yeah, so I think last game was a 6-5 win against the Sabres. It was kind of a crazy third period. Drouin, I believe, played up on the first line for some of that game with McKinnon and Rantanen. They put Lehkonen with Middlestat and Colton down the second line. Daily Faceoff isn't showing that. I don't know if they had morning skate where it didn't show that today. But I do like saving considerable salary by going Drouin for 3,800. I think that's a really good value if you're going to play Colorado. Like you said, either McKinnon, Rantanen, Drouin, Makar, or you can't really do that. So you would do McKinnon. You could do McKinnon, Drouin, Makar, or McKinnon, Drouin, Rantanen. I think that's how I'd want to play Colorado. They're in a really great spot. Montreal has been playing better of late, but they're on the second half of a back-to-back in Mile High. So, it's not a great, spot for them against one of the best teams in hockey. So I like Montreal long-term to be playing better than their average has been, but tonight might not be the time to fade the team playing Montreal, if that makes any sense. So I do think Colorado is in a great spot, but you're going to get ownership on them. I don't know. I'm playing 4 lineups tonight, and I think I'll have one Colorado build for what that's worth. Yeah. So I like them. I think
I'm playing one lineup, and I'm playing very, very small field, and so I'm probably going to have a hard time fading McKinnon at least in that lineup. But I do think you need to be cognizant of the ownership they're going to catch, and be willing to be creative with Colorado because they can put some goals in via the power play, as we know. If we move to the next game here, we have Vegas against Buffalo. New Jersey's not on the main slate. Vegas is a really good game environment, the best HDSF plus on the slate, which means that they're going to get a lot of chances from the standpoint of the shots and high danger chances. The pace is okay, but they're really just getting a lot of shots, and Buffalo's giving up a lot of shots. Buffalo defensively has not been very good. Vegas is what's a little bit hard about them is it's hard to choose between line 1, line 2, and line 3. If we just look at them real quick here, line 1, 2, and 3, we've got line 1 with Eichel, Stone, and with Tanner Pearson, who's a punt, and then we've got line 2 with Tomas Hertl, Dorofeev, and Carlson, and then we've got line 3 with Olsen, who's on the first power play, alongside Howden and Kolesar, who are both cheap. If we look at the research sheets and see kind of where they've been getting their production, Vegas, you can see here in the last 14 games, has really been pretty spread out between those 3 lines. So it's not like one of those lines is dominating like Colorado 1 or Tampa 1 or Winnipeg 1. This is a team that's getting production both in the long term and over the recent 14-game sample from all 3 lines. The sheets from a range of outcomes standpoint tend to prefer Vegas 2. If we go back to the line range of outcomes here and we sort and look at Vegas 1, 2, and 3, and you can see here that Vegas 2 is the one that kind of really sticks out here with a 54% 2x. A lot of that's coming from Dorofeev, who's pretty cheap. One thing that I think is interesting to consider is playing a mini of like Dorofeev with either Hanifin or Pietrangelo, who are 2 D-men who are historically pretty active. I mean, Hanifin, when he was on Calgary back in the day, I used him quite a bit. He didn't do much for the first month or so of Vegas, but in the last week or 2, him and Pietrangelo have been playing. And if you can see here, Dorofeev is on the second power play alongside Pietrangelo and Hanifin. So I don't think it's crazy to play line 1. It's just, if we look at the median and ceiling outcomes here, Vegas 1 is like all the way down here with that 30% 2x as compared to like all of these other pay ups. So you're kind of like, vetoing a bunch of other pay ups that are better value if you're playing Vegas 1. I don't think it's crazy to play Vegas 1 in this matchup. It's a good matchup. It's got the best HDSF, but based off of the sheets and my kind of desire to probably play Colorado 1, I kind of think I'm leaning towards Vegas 2, but I think you could even make an argument for Vegas 3. Is there a way that you're leaning between Vegas 1, Vegas 2, Vegas 3? And how would you decide between those?
Yeah, I think I'm leaning Vegas 2. I think I like the fact that Carlson's under 5,000 again. Hurdle and Dorofeev, they're all reasonable. They're a good filler stack. You can put a second stack with them and have two like mid-range stack build, which really could get you exposure to the two high total games. So yeah, I like Pietrangelo as well. I think him and Hannafin are great. I just don't like Pearson. I mean, I know he's mid-price and on line 1, but and we can talk about Saad last night all we want, but he's because he didn't do exactly what we were talking about offline. But like,
I might play him tonight to make up for last night. He's in it. We'll talk about St. Louis in a little bit.
Yeah. So just a quick 10-second story is like Pablo and I talked about the Blues last night, and he wanted to maybe put Saad with Buchnevich and not Thomas on a St. Louis 1 stack, and I said, well, Saad's going to be the guy that gets. We both thought Saad was going to get one block or a block and a shot, and then he scores a hat trick. So we were kicking ourselves. But tonight, I think Pearson is in a similar spot. Like he could really just maybe get a block. So if I was going to play Vegas 1, I'd probably just leave him off and play Eichel, Stone, and Theodore, and just do a power play stack with that. But I'm leaning Vegas 2. I think Vegas 2. I don't know if I want to go chasing Vegas 3 tonight. I don't think we need to go down to a third line like that. With a team that scores like Vegas, I think line 1 or 2 is going to score most of the goals, and I'll take line 2, and hopefully they get 2 full line goals and go from there.
Yeah, and I think you can combine, like I said, Dorofeev with Hannafin or Pietrangelo, or you can do some combination of Dorofeev, Hurdle, Carlson if you want. I mean, you look at the range of outcomes; they all have pretty nice 2x for kind of a mid-range line that doesn't cost you that much money. So to your point, it gives you some salary flexibility. Let's move on now to Edmonton. Edmonton is playing Seattle on a back-to-back. Decent game total, pretty good HDSF plus. We looked at Edmonton in detail yesterday because it was a small slate, and Edmonton had a really high total against Anaheim. Edmonton is complicated right now because they have just not been producing for their price, and this is not a new thing. Like McDavid, I mentioned it on the stream I did yesterday by myself. He's 10-1, so he's priced like just as much as McKinnon, and he has like legitimately done nothing now for the last while. I mean, he's had a couple games in the teens, but I really do wonder if he's just not right since the injury he had earlier this season. It's complete speculation. From a range of outcomes standpoint, Edmonton has not a very strong range of outcomes. The sheets have them like way down here. It's the 15th best pay up with a really ugly 19% 2x. The sheets prefer Edmonton 2 again. That has Draisaitl, who has been producing alongside Arvidsson, who missed like 10 goals last night that he could have tipped in, and Podkolzin, who's a kind of a punt. I can't. I don't want to overreact yesterday, but I can't really justify paying up for Edmonton 1, and I feel like the sheets back that up. You will get them at extremely low ownership because they failed so hard at really chalky ownership last night. But I can't really justify them over Colorado. And I know it's not like a 1v1 between those two lines, but you're not playing Edmonton 1 and Colorado 1, so you're kind of choosing. And if I'm going to pay up, I'm not paying up for Edmonton 1 or Colorado 1 when McKinnon is going off every game and Jesus hasn't done anything. But I don't know. What are your thoughts? I mean, I think if I'm playing Edmonton, I'm probably playing some version of Edmonton 2 with Draisaitl. But I don't see myself getting up to Edmonton tonight.
Yeah, so Edmonton is interesting. I mean, if you look at their last couple games, the last games into mid-December, they played San Jose, Ottawa, the Kings, Anaheim, Utah, Anaheim. They're not playing great teams. They haven't. They're a stretch of winnable games, and I mean, they lost, a couple of them, but like, I think they're playing down to their opponents in some regard. And I mean, I don't know why Hyman's on line 3. Like Connor McDavid and Zach Hyman are attached to each other, like almost always, and now Hyman's line 3, Connor Brown's line 1. To your point, McDavid's not shooting. Like 2 years ago, he just started shooting and scoring goals all the time. Now if you look, I can't remember the last time he hit a shots bonus. It's been a while. So there's like no floor for a player that's, 10,000, which is tough. That being said, they're playing Seattle, which can leak goals, and they've got Grubauer in net, which isn't their best goalie. And, I can see Edmonton winning a 5-2 game and somebody, scoring a couple goals, but I would go Draisaitl's line definitely with Arvidsson, and maybe just mini those two. Bouchard is the power play shooter there, quarterback. He's dangerous if they decide to leave him open to cover the other guys more, but he's expensive. So
71.
Yeah, that's what I would go. Mini it, Draisaitl, Arvidsson, maybe put Podkolzin, but that's where I'm leaning on Edmonton. I just would rather see Hyman on line 1 with McDavid before I start playing Edmonton 1 again.
Yeah. I think we're on the same page there. Next we have Dallas. This is a broken record. Dallas just continues to be in really good spots. I mean, I feel like they're our team this year. They're kind of like the Paydirt team. We play them like every slate. You can see here they've got a really strong HDSF plus, second best on the slate behind Vegas. A really, really good game pace. I mean, this should be like a really fast paced game. And the only thing that's hard about Dallas is choosing between line 1 and line 2. And this has been the case now for like the last 2 weeks. Is if we look at line 1 and line 2, you've got a lot of guys who are underpriced relative to their production. I mean, Robertson has like crept up a little, but he's still only 5,700. I've said this like every single slate talk we've done over the last 2 weeks. Rupe Hintz is producing. He's 5,500. Jamie Benn is 4,200, and he's paired with Wyatt Johnson on the second line and on the first power play. Like the only guy I don't like, and then by the way, Matt Duchene, who's not on the first power play but is on the second line with Ben and Wyatt Johnson. Now he's producing too all of a sudden, right? So basically, like anyone on line 1 and line 2, I like. I don't think I'd go all the way down to line 3, although I don't think Stankoven's a bad player. It's just they're just not getting enough production out of that line right now. The only player I'm not that excited to play is probably Miro Heiskanen. He is down to 5,400. He is going to start producing at some point, but he's just not shooting the puck a whole lot. If I'm playing a D-man on these two teams, on this team, it's probably Thomas Harley, who's 3,900 and has been fairly involved. But man, I really can't poke holes in Dallas 1 or Dallas 2. And even if you want to combine them and just say, you know what, I'm going to play like Wyatt Johnson, Rupe Hintz, Jason Robertson, Jamie Benn, and throw in fucking Thomas Harley with them, go for it. I just, until Dallas gets priced up, they're going to be in play every single game when they're in a good matchup, and this is a good matchup.
Yeah, I mean, Dallas. What's scary about Dallas is they're doing a lot of this scoring and overproducing without necessarily hammering on the power play. Their power play has not been great, but I've seen stacks with line 1 and 2, at the top of slates at the end of the night. Even considering, usually when you stack line 1 and 2 and you mix them, it's because the power play went 3 for 6 or something, or 2 for 6, and that's not really happening. But like, basically, you have a team with the top 6 just getting the majority of the scoring. You're not going to probably see line 3 or 4. Stankoven's not scoring like he was last year, at least not yet. So it's interesting because Dallas is doing well without the power play going off. If their power play starts clicking, they're really a dangerous team, and they're way, way, way underpriced. But as it stands, they're underpriced with their power play not necessarily the greatest. Heiskanen being the quarterback of that. So yeah, I'm with you on this. I like Duchene, and I've been looking at maybe like a Duchene Johnson, Harley 3-man and leaving off Ben, but Ben's cheap enough. So like, why am I not adding Ben at that point? So 4-stacking the stars is probably one of the best 4-stack spots of the night.
Yeah.
So that's what
and you can see here in the range of outcomes, like sheets have them basically in coin flip territory between line 1, line 2. So I think you can kind of combine them any way you want. The one guy I've been hammering in the last week or two has been Jason Robertson, because again, the guy used to be priced in the mid 7s, even low 8s. And look what he's been doing. I mean, every single game he's producing, right? 21, 24, 25, 1 dud, 11, 16. And he's still only priced, he's up to 57 now. But 57 is still pretty cheap for a guy who's getting that production. So yeah, line 1, line 2, combine them how you want. I don't know that I don't think the sheets have a super strong preference. They have a pretty similar projection here between line 1, line 2. Really good spot. I think you don't overthink it. Move now to Winnipeg. The one thing I'll say about Winnipeg, it's not a great game environment. It's a slow-paced game, and they don't look like they've got a great shots or high nature chances matchup. The one thing about Winnipeg you can say is that you know where it's coming from. You're getting it from the first line. If you look at their matchups, and it's all line 1. I mean, it's all line 1, right? Line 1 versus 2, 3, 4. It's all line 1. So you're getting it all from line 1. From a median standpoint, they're fine. They've got the 4th best median on the slate. From a point per dollar standpoint, they've got a 32% 2x, which is okay. Not bad amongst the better ones for the pay-ups. But the only thing that kind of I don't love about them is I don't love playing Winnipeg without Kyle Connor, and Kyle Connor tonight is priced in the same range as McDavid. And I hate to sort of keep comparing everything to Colorado, but when you've got Colorado at home on a back-to-back against Montreal, on a Montreal back-to-back, to me, like it all starts and finishes with, are you playing Colorado or not? So, are you going to play Kyle Connor for 9,100 instead of McDavid? I mean, you'll get Kyle Connor at a much lower ownership. And to be clear, from a range of outcomes standpoint, Kyle Connor is good. I mean, he's like the 10th best projection up here, but it's from a median standpoint. But from a 2x standpoint, he's a 21.5, and then you've got McKinnon with a 35.4. So I know it's not a 1v1, but I think Winnipeg is in a fine spot against Detroit. It's not a great spot, and you are going to get production if they're going to score a bunch of goals from line 1. I just don't know that I want to prioritize Kyle Connor at 9,100. And even Velarde's 56, but he was like in the mid 4s recently. And we just talked about Dallas. Like you can get Jason Robertson for that price, or you can get like a bunch of the Dallas other guys for that price. Am I really going to play Velarde over those guys? I don't know. I mean, so I don't hate Winnipeg. I know I sound like I do, but I don't. I just don't know that I can justify their price given the alternatives we have in that range.
Yeah, and you said it off the top. Like the plus about Winnipeg is they're very much more of a one-line team than Dallas. So when you're saying, Robertson and Velarde, like it could be a Dallas 2 night, and then you've got Robertson with 3 shots, and then you're like, it's very rare that you're going to get a Winnipeg 3 night or Winnipeg 2 night tonight. The only person that you didn't bring up was Ehlers is back. And he is one of those players that can ignite a line 2 or get the power play goals. I mean, he's shooting a 24% shot share on the power play. So I'm with you on Connor. He's 9,100. He's not 8,100, and I really don't know. I think that $1,000 of like where I think he should be priced is going to go a long way in the rest of your lineup. I don't mind Scheifele's price. I don't mind Velarde's price for, he's finally where he should be. But yeah, Connor to make that a full stack, that's expensive. And now you're in Colorado territory when you're doing something like that. So I'm with you. I do like them. I just don't know how to fit them in and exploring ways to put Ehlers instead of Scheifele or Connor, which sounds like a bad thing to do, but it's the only way that you can play Winnipeg with a solid second stack. So,
yep. We'll move on to Carolina now, and I'll try to be efficient because I know people want time to build tonight, as do Mike and I. Carolina is in a good pace-up spot. Looks like a fast-paced game. Minnesota has not been great defensively. I feel like they're a team that people don't realize is that good defensively for whatever reason, but they're not great. And so it's a good matchup from a macro standpoint. Everyone's already heard me complain about Carolina in the past in terms of how hard they are to figure out. Over the last 14 games, they're getting most of their production from lines 1 and line 2, which has been the case for most of the year. So, they're pretty close. It's not dissimilar to Dallas 1 and Dallas 2, just a little pricier, kind of similar situation, but a little bit pricier. Carolina 1 and 2 are correlated in a way that isn't too bad. You've got Aho and Jarvis, and then you still have Ty Smith at 3,100 as a punt D-man on the first power play. And then you've got Marty Necas and Svechnikov on the second line, first power play. I would caution around Ty Smith. Like, we all played him the first game he played on the first power play, and he scored a goal. He scored a goal on 2 shots, which could happen. Like, that does happen that's why we play punt D-man on the first power play. But it's just worth noting, like, he doesn't, I mean, he's not like a guy who's necessarily going to be super active. Like, he's a third D-man. That's what you want, right? But there's a very good chance he just gets like 3 points. Like, he gets 2 blocks and that's it. I mean, if he scores a goal on the power play, that's great. But anyway, it's just a word of caution. Like, I get it. We all like the punt D-man on the first power play. I don't know that Ty Smith is as strong of a play as we'd all like. And I feel like that first game where he scored a goal kind of misled people a little bit. Carolina, from a range of outcomes standpoint, is okay. Not great. 30% 2x. Carolina 1. Carolina 2 is 34%. So very similar between the two of them. I don't know. To me, they're not a priority, but they are in a good spot, and they won't be very owned. So from a larger field standpoint, I think they're more attractive. From a smaller field standpoint, I have a hard time trying to figure out where they're going to get production from, and that kind of scares me away. But Mike, you play Carolina more than I do. Do you feel strongly about them?
It's tough because they are in a pretty good spot. I mean, Minnesota's not the greatest spot, but they are in Carolina. First game of the new year down there in Raleigh. I do like them. But again, I feel like I like every line 2 tonight. I don't know what my problem is, but I do Svechnikov. Like, I keep waiting for him to return to form. And I mean, looking at his game logs, it doesn't look like it's coming. But I like Necas. I'm with you on Ty Smith. I don't think I'd play him. He's 3,100. And you are just hoping for like a screen goal or something, because he's not going to get you a shot bonus and he's not going to get you a block bonus. He might get two assists or something too. He could do it that way. So he's not the worst play in the world, but I'm probably not doing it. So line 2 maybe. But yeah, it's tough. Or line 1 again. Like, it's Aho. How expensive is he? 6,700 now. That's not bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, Aho and Jarvis. Yeah. So they're actually cheaper than line 2, which I didn't really just assume.
Yeah, their price is all like okay. Like, you kind of want to see this 2x kind of in the 35-45% range for guys who are in the 600s, 6Ks. So they're like a tad overpriced for their projection, but not bad. It's mitigated by the fact they'll be unowned, which is why I kind of like them for a larger field. But for a smaller field, I just don't know that I get there. But yeah, I think line 2 is fine. Line 1 is okay as well. And if you want to take a chance at Ty Smith, she'd think he's really strong value because he's a punt and he's on the first power play. But just be aware his floor is literally like 1 to 2 points. Columbus is an X team here. We say the same thing about Columbus every slate, which is like, man, they just keep producing. Like, every game they have is a high scoring game, and it's all coming from line 1. The spot is not great. I mean, it's a slow paced spot with a bad HGSF plus. So yeah, I keep saying to myself, man, eventually Columbus is not going to produce, right? It's a little wild, how much they've been going off over the last month. You can see here, it's all coming from line 1. You see this green, like, all across the way here. It's all line 1. From a median standpoint, they don't look great. So I'm comfortable fading them. Voronikov is getting a little pricier. He was like way underpriced for a while. But they are fully correlated with Monahan, Marchenko, Werenski, and Voronkov. I want to hate on Werenski. I hate on him all the time because he's 8,500. He's like Roman Josi pricing. But the truth is, like, dude has just been going nuclear, right? Like 45 points, 25, one dud at 7, 38, 38. So, like, man, it's justified. It's a justified 8,500. He's going ham every fucking slate. My heart wants to fade them. It's hard to knock the production, but the spot is not great, and they're getting a little bit pricier. I don't know. Is Columbus a priority for you?
No, I don't think so. You need to take some stands, and I feel like we kind of like a lot of stacks tonight. I have to not like a spot, and I think I'm going Columbus is one of them. And if I don't mind Werenski as like a one-off, which sounds weird, but he's just been that dominant and just accrues points no matter who's scoring. So yeah, if you look at the top of the board for D, you've got Makar and Werenski. Like those are actually like two great plays. I think that you can justify playing either one of those. Probably Makar with more of his line mates. But yeah, it's tough. I just don't want to play Columbus one against a slow-paced back-to-back St. Louis team. As much as it's an okay spot, but yeah, I don't think I am because they're a little too expensive for me now.
Yeah,
they could score.
You can see Werenski's median and ceiling are up here with Makar, but I don't know. I'd rather take Makar if I can fit him in with McKinnon for $200 more in a better spot. I don't know. I totally understand Werenski's been going nuclear every game, but at some point they're not going to have a game where they go crazy.
Yeah,
this might be it. Toronto is our next team. Austin Matthews is back. I don't love playing players back from injury. I just feel like it takes a little while to get the grease off, the rust off rather, grease the wheels. Decent team total, okay HDSF plus. Boston's not a bad matchup, but not one that's like great either. When we look at Toronto's production, it's been mostly coming from Toronto 2 with Tavares and Nylander. Obviously, that's going to change with Matthews coming back. You've got Matthews, Marner, Nyes together as one of the pay-up lines. Over the course of the year, line 2 has been producing more. Over the last 14, it's been all line 2 with a little bit of line 3 because Matthews was out. If I'm playing Toronto and the sheets agree with this, I'm probably playing line 2 with Tavares, Nylander, and maybe throw Patches because he's not that expensive. But I'm probably not playing Toronto on this spot. I don't know. They're not a priority for me. Toronto 1 has a good median, but a really bad 2x because Matthews is really expensive. So I can't justify that. And then Toronto 2 is down here, and they're right. They're actually right above them. My bad. Toronto 2 is slightly better median for a lower price. So I'm probably playing Toronto 2 with Tavares, Nylander if I'm playing them. I don't hate it, to be clear. I think it's like a fine line to play. I just don't know that they're a priority. And you can throw Pacioretty in there if you want. But to me, like the price of them, I don't know. Like if I'm playing, I'm either going to pay up probably to the Colorado 1 or I'm maybe going more balanced with like Dallas or Vegas at 18. Toronto's price they're just kind of priced like a little bit in no man's land with their pricing tonight. But I don't know. Is Toronto a priority for you? I mean, maybe you're a little more bullish on play Matthews. He's 9,800 coming off injury. So, but I don't know. My guess is that you probably like Tavares and Nylander, but how do you feel about it?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting that they're bringing Matthews back. I mean, they're playing tomorrow, which you're going to bring a guy back. Like, wouldn't you want him in the second half of a back-to-back against a lesser, opponent? But so that makes me think he's healthy if they're going to play him on the front of a back-to-back, unless they're going to rest him tomorrow. But I mean, just the uncertainty. I need to know for 9,800, I'm getting a player that's going to play 20 minutes, and I don't know for sure if he's going to play 20 minutes and be Austin Matthews. He was out for about, the same amount of time in November from the 3rd to the 30th. He came back and he was playing 20 minutes with 2 assists. So, I mean, it's not out of the range of outcomes that he does get the 3-point bonus and line 1 does things. But yeah, I just think there's too much uncertainty. I don't think I want to play line 2. If I was to play Toronto, I kind of different from you. I think I would go line one and just play and use Nice as the value to make it work. But I don't think I'm doing it now, but I almost want to, just because it will be the lowest you'll get Matthews on like any slate, basically, I think.
Yeah.
Play. So
that's a fair point. You'll get him at nothing ownership, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Nashville. You know what the sheets are going to think. Nashville, to be fair, they're in a good spot. Calgary has not been great. They haven't been terrible, but they've been great. Decent HGSF plus. The truth about Nashville is just that they're due for aggression. I mean, they're shooting the puck a ton. And I watched them last night because I played a couple teams last night, and Nashville was one of my teams with Forsberg, Marchessault, and Stamkos. And they're getting all their production from that first line. I mean, it's kind of one of those teams where, over the course of the season, it's mostly coming from that first line. They get a little bit out of O'Reilly and Nyquist, and now they moved Evangelista from line 3 up to line 2. But it's mostly coming from line 1. The sheets, as we all know, love them. The range of outcomes is really, really strong. They've got by far the best 2x of any of the pay-ups and the best 3x. So from a point per dollar standpoint, Stamkos and Marchessault are just really cheap. And then Forsberg is not crazy priced, but not as cheap as Stamkos and Marchessault. I think it's interesting to think about playing Nashville with like Dallas, because you can play a balanced build if you want to fade Colorado, because you can play like Stamkos, Marchessault, or some version of Stamkos, Marchessault, Forsberg, and then you throw in like Dallas with whoever you like from line 1 and line 2 and play a balanced build. So I don't dislike Nashville. I never disliked Nashville. I totally understand why the sheets like them. They're shooting the puck a lot, and they've been underperforming. It's kind of like a running joke at this point, but I'd focus on line 1, and I think they're fine, and the sheets think they're really strong. But I don't know that they're a super priority for me, but I have no problem whatsoever playing them. Like, they're definitely in the one of the teams I'm thinking of playing, and if I'm playing them, I'm playing some combination of Forsberg, Stamkos, Marchessault. I will say I'm not playing Roman Josi right now at 7,600. He has done nothing to justify that price so far.
Yeah. Line one is good. I mean, looking at Stamkos' price at 5,700 and Marchessault at 5,900, those are reasonable. Forsberg 7,400. They're coming off a back-to-back. But yeah, line one's in a good spot. Nyquist down at 2,800. That's punt level. So you got to consider that. I don't know if he's on first power play. I don't think he is.
He's not.
No, he's not. He was at one point. And then, what's O'Reilly? O'Reilly's 4,400. So yeah, there's value on Nashville, or there's, a reasonably priced line. So you could really go either way. They are in a pretty good spot against Calgary, who likes to, shoot the puck and change possession. But yeah, it's, I like Nashville. I don't love Nashville. The sheets love Nashville because they always do. So take that for what you will.
Yeah. Yeah. So Stamkos, Marchessault is probably where I'd lean if I'm playing them. It's worth noting Svechkov was just called up yesterday to fill in for Novak, who's out. And so he's really cheap. And he shot the puck a lot last night. He got close, but he was in the AHL 2 games ago. So anyway, but if you needed 2,500, cheapie. And Weissblatt, by the way, shout out to one of my fellow Jews. Weissblatt made his NHL debut last night, and they showed him and his parents, and it was kind of cool. His parents are both hearing impaired, and it's just like really cool to see him playing and his family out in the stands. And he's got like very weird family names. By the way, his name is Ozzy, and his sister or brother, I'm not sure which one, is named Orca. And then the other one has some other word, like ocean or something. Look it up on Wiki. I looked them up on Wiki. Anyway, this is why you come listen to us, because we watch hockey and we know weird stuff. Yeah. Next we have St. Louis. So let's talk about St. Louis. St. Louis is not in a great spot against Columbus. It's fine. HGSF is okay. St. Louis is not a good team, but neither is Columbus. And Columbus does tend to get into shootouts. I half joked before, because it's not a complete joke, that I might play Saad tonight. Because if you look at St. Louis, Brandon Saad is still 2,700. It is a little bit chasey, I will admit it. He scored his first goal in like 20 games last night, and then he scored 2 more to get the hat trick. But it's just worth noting. I mean, he is 2,700 on the first line and the first power play. And Cam Fowler, who did nothing yesterday, is still 3,400 on the first power play. And so you can play Saad and Fowler as a mini for, $6,100. And if you want, you can throw Buchnevich in there for 4,700 because you'll probably get a helper if Saad scores. Or for that matter, Thomas, although Thomas is a little bit pricier. And when I thought I was maybe just being a little bit chasey, I then took a look at the range of outcomes and looked at St. Louis, and lo and behold, Brandon Saad, 59% 2x, which is like outrageously good value. So I'm just saying it, like, I think you can do worse than Saad with Cam Fowler or with Buchnevich. I'm not saying St. Louis is good, but he's really cheap, and Columbus is not a great defensive team. So that's my 2 cents on St. Louis. How do you feel about them?
So Saad has scored in 3 games this year out of 40, and he scored 2 goals, and now 3 goals. So he's more likely to get you nothing than to do that. But he is getting the opportunity that he didn't get in a lot of those games that you're seeing 2.8, 2.6, et cetera. So it's really not a linear comparison you can make that he's going to, I guess it's not fair to say 2 goals or he's going to get nothing. It's just tough for me. Watching that game, I think he scored like a breakaway. And obviously the empty netters, the empty netter. And I forget how he scored his second goal. So, I mean, he's getting opportunity, but he did get some bounces last night. It is chasey, but sometimes being chasey, you get rewarded. So, you don't want to just like make a lineup that you think other people will think is cool. Like if it's chasey, it's chasey. And if it makes you money, it makes you money. So all that to say, I'm not going to play him. But I totally see the reason to play him at that salary for sure. Just know he's only scored in 3 games, and he doesn't seem to be a guy who gets assists, and be okay with 0 floor from him for that price. Yeah.
I'm going to run through the next set of games fairly quickly so we can answer any questions and then get people to the building. And these are the lower total games. I'll kind of do them in batches and then get your 2 cents. Calgary's the next team. I've taken my own notes that you guys are just going to have to trust me on since I won't show the range of outcomes for everyone. The only thing I'll say about Calgary is that they're cheap. Zari is still only 3,600. You compare him with Sharangovich as a mini together, the two of them. Kadri has been producing pretty consistently. He's only 59. And then you've got Coleman, who's 42, who's been pretty good as well. So the hard thing about them is they're hard to correlate. Like you're either playing Kadri on his own, or you're playing, Coleman on his own, or you're maybe doing a mini of Sharangovich and Zary. I don't love them. I think they're fine value. The sheets think that Calgary 3 is really strong value. Like of the punt lines, it's one of the best ones with Sharangovich and Zary. That's my 2 cents on Calgary. I'll do these in kind of threes. LA, I don't have much interest at all in. There's just nothing I like on them. Deneau is cheap, I'll say that. But, not a great matchup against Tampa. Doesn't stick out from a game environment. Correlation isn't super good. So they're not really on my radar tonight. This is one of those teams that I'm just eliminating for me. And then the third one I'll point out here is Boston. I'm doing these again in order of game total. Boston, Toronto's actually not a bad matchup. I do think Pasta is going to go completely overlooked because of their total, and it's worth pointing out that he has been starting to produce, pretty consistently now. He's kind of like starting to become himself again, where he's scoring or assisting and getting 6-7+ shots on goal every single game. So, I think you can count on him to be pretty active and productive. Lindholm is cheap at 4,500. I don't know. McAvoy is tempting at 5K, but he just hasn't been producing much. But I don't think Lindholm Pasta is a terrible mini. Marchand is down to 5,500, but he hasn't been very productive. Any thoughts, Mike, on Calgary, LA, or Boston?
I'm with you on all of that. Boston is interesting, but like they're just not clicking as lines for me to play them. I mean, you can one-off Pasternak. Lindholm and Marchand are cheap enough, but yeah, I'm just not convinced I want to play Boston tonight against a strong defensive team in Toronto. Toronto's been strong defensive wise, and now Matthews is back. No thanks on Boston, and Calgary is cheap, so you might be able to get a filler line out of them. And the Kings against Tampa with Vasi, I just want to stay away from that as well.
Yeah. Again, I'll do these in threes. Next, I'll do Seattle, Tampa Bay, and Buffalo. My note for Seattle is, they're cheap. I don't know how to pick between these lines and who to play. Like, nobody's been consistently producing. They are really cheap, so if you need a punt line, you can play one of them. Tampa Bay has a shockingly low total. I don't know what's going on there. It's like weird. Like, they've been one of the best teams, and they've got Cooch, Point, and Gensel, but you never see Tampa with such a low total. The sheets think they're good from a median standpoint. They're up here as second best line, but from a point per dollar standpoint, they're really hard to justify. They've got a really bad 2x and 3x. So they're just really expensive for a really low total game. And then next we have Buffalo. The only thing I wrote for my notes on Buffalo is that Zucker is really cheap. Zucker's 4,200 on the first power play, first line. And, he's been doing pretty well over the last 3 games. He had a Hattie last game, and then he's on he scored in 4 out of his last 5 with a Hattie his last game and a bunch of shots on goal. So I think Zucker's underpriced. Tate Thompson is 7,700. He's been doing okay, but I don't know that I can justify him. I'd probably just be looking at Zucker as a one-off. But yeah, Seattle, Tampa, Buffalo. What are your thoughts for these teams?
Tampa is super, super high price. Somebody said it in the Discord, and I agree. You can't play them. I mean, they're not priced down for a matchup against the Kings. And their total super low. I will say the Kings aren't as defensive as last year. Same as Carolina. Like, sometimes people put these teams in boxes of like, hey, good defensive team, and then years go by and they don't change their outlook on them. Carolina and LA are kind of like that. LA's not as defensive or strong as last year. However, they are getting healthier, so maybe they will get there. With that being said, Tampa's not discounted at all. I can't play them. Seattle, no, I don't like Buffalo or Seattle as well. I'm just not playing the Kraken against Edmonton. I don't care that they're on the back-to-back. So, yeah, I'm with you. Nothing stands out from those teams.
Okay. And then the last 4, Utah, Minnesota, Detroit, Montreal. My notes for Utah is they have some value. The sheets think they're okay. They don't think they're great. Cooley has been producing. Schmaltz is only 4,400. You can go all the way down to Krause, who scored last game. I don't know that I would do that, but he is min-priced at 2,500. It's not a matchup that stands out, but, they're relatively cheap. I don't think I could justify Gunther or Keller in this matchup against Dallas and Ettinger. Minnesota, they're correlated. I mean, that's the best I could say for them. You got Zuccarello, Faber, Rossi, Boldy, and you got Eck all on the first power play. But not a matchup that really stands out for me. I don't think they're a priority. And then Detroit, my note on Detroit is Detroit 2. The sheets like Detroit 2 a lot. A lot of that's being driven by Patrick Kane. Patrick Kane is 4,500. Patrick Kane is producing. I mean, he's been having lots of good games. You can see he's got a 3-game goal streak on with 4 shots on goals last game, assist in 2 of those games as well. So Kane for 4,400 is really, for 4,500 rather, is good value. And Cat at 5,800 is not bad either. He's been producing alongside Kane on that line. So I do like Detroit too. You can play Kane to bring Cat as a mini. Sater's okay, but 6,100 is a little pricey. And then lastly, we have Montreal. Montreal, it's worth noting that Colorado has not been a good defensive team this year, but they are getting healthy. I think they're going to be a better defensive team. They aren't a back-to-back, but they should be pretty fresh after the New Year's break. Slavkovsky is only 4K. I don't think you're getting up to Suzuki or Caulfield. I'm probably not playing Montreal, but I get it if you think, on a back-to-back, you could maybe game stack it. But those are my notes on them. Utah has some value. Minnesota's correlated. Detroit 2 with Kane and DeBrincat is interesting. And, Montreal is, I don't know, whatever. They've got I don't think I'm playing them on the slate.
Yeah, I would say Montreal, maybe you could punt like Gallagher at 2,700, maybe. But that's about as far as I'd go with Montreal. Again, I don't know if Laine's playing. He was sick last game. He didn't start, which made everyone have to scramble because he was a really good option last night. I'm with you on Detroit. I mean, I think Kane is underpriced at 4,500. He's he could be worth a look, either as a one-off or with DeBrincat. If you wanted to game stack that with Winnipeg, that's not the worst thing in the world. Granted, it's Hellebuck and net, but goalie is goalie, so don't overthink that. And I forget what the last team you said was.
And the last team was
Utah.
Minnesota. Oh, Utah, rather. Utah, yeah.
Yeah. Kraus, 2,500. You could do worse if you're looking for a punt there. Cooley, Gunther, McBain. I have a soft spot for that line, but they're going against Dallas, so I might not be the night to have a soft spot for that line. So, that's it.
And then the last thing I'll say here before we answer any final questions is just if we run the Sims and kind of show what they're showing here. Let me reload. I think I messed it up there by doing that. I just want to show where the edge is with some of the players. If they don't run, I took notes earlier. For some reason, they may not be loading right now. I don't know what's going on. Yours aren't running either?
Well, I just got
red. There we go. So again, something's going on. There's an issue with the Sims. Well, when I ran them earlier, Colorado, Nashville, that's what stuck out. McKinnon, Stamkos, Marchessault were really the guys that stuck out, and you can see that here in the top lines. That was kind of my takeaway was Colorado, Nashville. If you're going to prioritize them, and then there was also 4-man and 3-man stacks over onslaughts. So I know we've been team onslaught this year, but for this slate, it seems like 4-man and 3-man stacks maybe a little more viable. So in summary, I think you've got pay ups with Colorado, Vegas. You've got Winnipeg 1. You've got some mid-range teams in Dallas 1 and 2, Nashville 1. And then we've got some value in St. Louis on Calgary. And then some one-offs that we talked about in Kane, and then some cheap D-men with Cam Fowler, Ty Smith, if you want to use that. So I think it's a pretty open slate. The biggest decision you're really making is, are you playing Colorado or not? Once you've decided that, if you fade Colorado, you can kind of do whatever you want, I think, because they're going to be pretty chalky. If you do play Colorado, just, the bigger your field size, just be aware that you're going to need more and more leverage if you're using Colorado. I'm okay using them because I'm playing really small field. I think you're even okay to use them for larger field, just because it's a 10 gamer and ownership won't be that crazy. But just make sure you've got something in there in your second line or in your value that makes you stick out a little bit. Otherwise, you're going to be, 2v2ing versus people. Any final thoughts from you, Mike?
Yeah, I'm with you, Colorado. If you play them, figure out what you're doing besides them, because that's going to be important tonight. I don't mind Winnipeg 1 just because of how they funnel their scoring. Carolina isn't in a bad spot if you can figure out what line's going to score tonight, or maybe all 4 do, and then you get pissed. It's Dallas line 1 and 2, like you said. Nashville's in a good spot. Vegas is in a good spot. Edmonton will be unowned, and who knows when they're going to light up the score sheet. So I'm with you. It's a pretty open slate, and it all starts with the first game of the night, which is Colorado. So you have a lot of 7 o'clock starts, an 8 o'clock, a 9 o'clock, and then 3 10 o'clock. So there is a late swap aspect to the slate, and you can be in the Discord if you want to chat what you want to swap off of, depending on how the 7 o'clock games go with your lineups.
Cool. Yeah, we'll be in the Discord, and good luck to everybody. At least we've got a half an hour to build here, so I'm only making 1 lineup, so I should be okay. But we'll be in the Discord, and I'm sure we'll be back doing another site soon. Please join Paydirt if you haven't, because I don't think there's any site that's got better projections, especially for hockey. And I think it's a really good approach, and we're going to continue to grind because it's a fun sport and it's underappreciated, and it's a lot better than late season NFL, and it's sure as hell a lot better than NBA, which we should play at this point. I know that's very biased, but that's how I feel. Anyhow, good talk with you guys. Thanks, Mike, for taking the time, and we'll be in touch soon.
Let's do it. All right, see ya.